Alright guys, welcome to Full Spectrum Warriors. This is the show where we head over to the official Star Citizen forums and see what drama is afoot. As usual, I will be sharing some of my own personal opinions in this video, so just be aware that they are opinions and you do not have to accept them in any shape, way or form. And you can feel free to disagree, really disagree, or even agree down below. But at the end of the day, this is all just for some mild entertainment between larger projects. So let's see who is saying what. MMO doesn't mean you must play with others, it means you share a world with others. I'm tired of this argument, honestly. I read it mostly in many PVE/PvP threads. But just because a game is an MMO doesn't mean everyone playing it does so because they want constant social interaction. Some people enjoy MMOs because they like living in worlds that evolve, they enjoy deep progression systems, they want a persistent universe that keeps growing, they appreciate having the option to interact, not the requirement. MMO equals massively multiplayer online, not forced cooperation only. That's about the scale of the world and shared persistence. Not about being glued to a Discord group 24/7 or begging for an escort every time you want to move cargo. The most successful MMOs on the market right now all have one thing in common. They support solo, group, and everything in between. You know what kills a game faster than PvE players leaving? Telling them you're playing it wrong. So quit telling people they should go playing a single player game or Squadron 42. They want to play in the PU but alone. And you know what? That should be okay and doable. And yes, even in places like Wicklow there should be a viable solo path to acquire resources without forced PvP. Not everyone wants the PvP to progress. Some of us just want to play the game, not gamble hours of effort to some random ganker for the 10th time. Okay, so first off, let me just say, telling anybody they should go and play something else is just bullshit. And I see this all the freaking time. The crux of this issue is, there are certain people, quite a lot of people, who just want to PvE. They want to move their boxes around, they want to mine, they want to do these other industrial jobs, and they want to do it in peace. Not only that, but the effort and time and in-game money requirement to do some of these tasks is usually on the substantial side. So, as they say, if some ganker comes along and undoes all that progress for no apparent reason, that can be pretty bullshit. And without the relevant security systems in place to allow these people to function with some protection, this is going to continue to be a problem. Now, I personally don't want the world to exclude me from interacting and pirating and engaging in PvP at will. That would be a terrible idea to me. I think personally that is the life and soul of the game. But then my base opinion about things like cargo running and mining is that it's quite boring, right? Even though I'm mostly a Bob, I don't really enjoy it. In fact, I find the best bit of it to be the threat of getting away with this much cargo and the risk involved. But it will be a spectrum. There will be people who just want to move freaking boxes and want to be left alone. Unfortunately, in the game we have now, they are forced to somehow either run a higher risk by making themselves vulnerable or running, less boxes or whatever to make themselves not as appealing. I think personally in the long run, this issue will be solved. And it can be solved right now, just by the cargo guys or whatever not running routes on the optimal pirating path. And I know that's a kind of shit thing to say. You can't play the game the way that you want because you want to go for the most highest profit, right? That's bullshit. I get that. I mean, my argument essentially is that if you want to be an industrial guy and min-max, then you can't min-max, which is not a great argument. I know that. And it's on CIG to implement something for high-sec systems that would actually benefit you guys doing those runs. For the other thing, the progression being locked behind PvP, like the Valakar, I get that point as well. And unfortunately, the way the game is right now, there's not much choice. I do believe CIG will add other ways at some point, But as we all know, the instanced areas got moved back. But even just with the current implementation, like if there was a Valakar boss at the end of every Onyx facility, you would never see another player, and the problem would be mostly solved, and you'd be able to get your Wicklow rewards, and we'd all be merry and bright. And what would naturally happen is there would be one or two facilities that everyone knew had a reputation for being the PvP ones. The ones you go to if you like a little bit back and forth. The other argument against this point is the player economy, and CIG have said this multiple times. They're trying to do things in a way where you can do the things you want to do, and other players can do the things they want to do, and if you need something from that thing, then you can buy it from the players who are doing that thing. They'll come to you when they need 100 freaking ton of Quantanium or some other rare resource, and you go to them when you need 2 Valakar Pearls or whatever. But again, that still leaves some of the non-PvP guys with feeling like they have no access to that game loop, because there is a chance they might run into PvP. And it's a shit thing to say, but that is just going to be the way that it is. You have whole sections of the game that is set up just for your benefit. There's no reason why there shouldn't be other sections of the game set up for someone else's benefit, if that makes sense. That's the way I see it, anyway. And I do believe there's lots of ways that can cross over as well. Like, I honestly must be playing the game wrong, because I never get ganked. I definitely don't get ganked 10 times in a row, like this guy's saying. But I get his point. If you've got 4 million in cargo on the table, if you get ganked and you lose all of that, that's a straight game off situation. That's I am done for the night. Soul destroyed. Because of some idiot thinking it was funny. It's a tough call. There's no black and white, really. But this was an interesting opening topic. I feel like I've had to really search my soul here to answer that. In fact, most of that stuff I've never even thought about before. I don't care about any of this, usually. I just play the freaking game, and I have quite a good time. But I'm not constantly doing cargo runs and running into this stuff all the time. So my opinion is slightly invalid there. And I also don't really enjoy piracy either. I've never pirated anybody in my life. Well, apart from that one guy who I hid in his ship and made him land, but it was just to see if I can punch his back door open for a video, and then I paid the guy. My opinion might not be the greatest here for both of those sides. I just kind of dodge around and do stuff. I never run into problems. In fact, if I do run into somebody who kills me, usually it's on me for being there and not fucking paying attention. But yeah, it's tricky. It's tricky. Feel free to hash it out below. Pretend I just don't know anything and give me all the pros and cons for both sides. Let's have a good debate here. This one's not making it into the vid, is it? There's like 20 minutes I've sat here rambling about that. And that doesn't even include the whole minute and a half sections where I'm just sitting there thinking. Anyway, let's see what's next. The absence of long-term reputation towards UEE advocacy will destroy the balance of the game. More or less recently, devs have confirmed that we will not have reputation with the bigger faction that own landing zones in large game areas, like the 4 Mega Core and Stanton, in order to do not lock content away from players.
For the major landing zones, it was causing potential issues for players to be able to earn negative rep with these companies, and seeing how, I worked for Crusader Security, I pissed them off, I attacked them, what does that mean for me accessing the content in Crusader now? And it had a lot of knock-on ramifications of, it was really complicating things, having the 4 corporations who controlled these planets also be reputation factions. So we're going to slowly start changing towards them being more local factions where you can work for them and earn money for them sometimes, but not necessarily keep a long-term reputation with them.
Okay, let's just go on and see what he says. I'll summarise the problem with this decision with one simple example. Me with my Idris fly to Terra, go to Terra Prime orbital station, wait for some player to leave its hangar, and shoot it dead with my laser, or railgun, or whatever. Then I get vaporised by the overwhelming station turrets, able to melt an Idris in seconds. After one night in jail, I repeat it, over and over, with no long-term consequences, simply because I can. Because in order to do not lock content away from players, I can commit genocide one day and the day after be a fresh new citizen. I beg of you from the depths of my heart to revert this choice. add mission and gameplay to reset your UEE reputation to positive levels, and this way you're not blocking content but adding new content. I mean, they've sort of got a point, right? And I do get the feeling that I'm missing something obvious as a counterpoint to this. I've read this, and although it made sense, it didn't really solve this problem. Locking players out of landing zones or shops or whatever would really make a difference. It's meaningful. I suppose the counter argument is, like for me right now in the game, and for quite a lot of people, we just go from place to place doing whatever makes us the most freaking money, or whatever we feel like doing. Maybe do some Foxwell, 100k a mission, kill some connies, or maybe go and run some boxes, or maybe go over at Pyro and do some bounties, maybe go and do some looting at Hathor. Like, I'm all over the place, and if there was barriers to that, that would actually just be a pain in the ass. Oh, I just need to nip into Orison and pick up some stealth coolers. No, you can't, mate, because the turrets are gonna melt your face off. Like, I would like to see more meaningful negatives to reputation, but maybe CIG's right, maybe blocking access to places isn't the best way to do that. If there was a way they could make the station or the city hostile towards you and not want you there, but you had a secondary route that was a bit of a pain in the arse to pull off, but you could still get in there, you could still, you know, do some trades and buy some things. You just had to, you know, get past the turrets and land somewhere crazy, or that would be pretty cool, I guess. And I do get what this guy's saying, but his example isn't exactly foolproof either. It would be cooler and deeper if the reputation system was like this, but this example of sitting there with an Idris trying to pick off people leaving in a 360 degree sphere around a station is just like, he's never going to be able to do it anyway. In fact, the bigger consequence is that he'll just get bored. So, I don't know. Let me know counter arguments. I feel like my brain is not like braining today, so yeah, definitely let me know what you think. We need a PVE server. I'm a regular player. I play for about a couple of hours a day. I want to do PVE content. It takes me weeks to collect Wicklow materials, over 30 ace helmets, storm farms, etc, etc. And all of this alone, only for some guy to come and destroy everything. Well, I mean, doing it alone, for a start, doesn't mean that you did any more work, right? Because if you do it with two people, it gets split between you, so like you just do it twice as much. Like, I feel like everybody is in the same boat here. And also, did somebody really come along and destroy everything? For that to be the case, that means you moved all of this in one run. So, like, who's really at fault there? But again, this is kind of outside my remit. I had one look at Wicklow, I tried it out, I seen how it worked, and I went, fuck no, I might touch this in 1.0 when when there'll be a permanence to whatever I get out of all that effort. I'm not saying that's what you should do, that's what I've done, and I'm a happy citizen. Screw Wicklow, like, that guy can go and hang. I mean, every now and again I dip into these things and I'm slowly building up some stuff that one day I might hand over for something. Because I mean, generally, it's a good idea. It's a nice thing to have. It's just a special shop that you can access for some cooler rewards than usual. And when this guy says, we need a PvE server, does he mean a server just for him? Or a server where other people can join and do multiplayer anyway? Or does he mean a server where all weapons are disabled? Like, the amount of time, development time, that would go into just that one aspect alone of making a player safe from other players at all times would be absolutely phenomenal. But again, opinions are opinions. This guy wants the game to be a certain way, other people want the game to be a certain way, sometimes they collide, and that's fine, it's fine. But personally, I'm glad that all this stuff is really, really hard, and I might get killed doing it, and I might lose some. There might be excitement and stories and tears, and I'll relish every bit of it. But that doesn't discount that there are dicks out there who are just dicks, or want to steal your shit. Anyway, please add separate PvE and PvP servers. This issue isn't going away. In fact, it's so popular that I get the feeling I'm going to get hammered in these comments. But I mean, I feel like I've stated my case. Now that the Apollo is coming, can we talk about infinite respawn again? What do you mean? This is the worst decision in history of Star Citizen. People shoving Ursas into every ship and then spawning like weeds to die over and over again. It's not very fun gameplay. I do hear there's a new Battlefield game for that. Yes, this an item recovery tier 0. Right, okay, so as usual there's two sides to this, and one of them is the playability factor and the accessibility factor has went up. Right, now I'm completely against tier 0. I wanted my sub-flare items, I didn't want to lose the ability to loot people. That's just stupid. Instead, those two things got exchanged. Before they did that, if you had an Ursa and you were respawning nearby, you were at the massive disadvantage of not being equipped with stuff. And that was a nice offset, because it meant you had to, I don't know, sneak up on some NPCs, break a few necks, get geared up, and then come looking for the guy that killed you, or get back to your body. That was a nice little loop. Being able to just jump straight back into the fight, however, is kind of annoying. But then it just moves the strategic gameplay somewhere else. If you are in an area, you need to make sure that area is clear of respawnable locations. And that isn't always possible. I've seen people glitching the nursery into walls to avoid, getting blown up. So in its current state, it would be cool if around certain locations, let's take the Hathor sites, ground sites for example, right? If there was some gameplay lore shenanigans you could whip up that says, I don't know, this satellite emits a signal or something like that, fucks with the Regen program, you need to park the Ursa a kilometre away from the satellite. That would maybe be not too bad. Maybe. But the real solution is just to get past tier 0, in my opinion. That would solve all of this. This guy says this has objectively improved the playability of the game and willingness for people to engage in different missions and content. This guy says objectively it has also made Death of a Spaceman feel less likely to be a thing. I would say it's definitely helped with the willingness for people to engage in different missions and content. But for a lot of people, and I know we're kind of in the minority because everybody just loved having their gear back and not losing it all the time, there has been a big section of the game lost, and that's the ability to loot and think on your feet and solve problems and hold people at ransom and, have some of that emergent gameplay. Like, you run into somebody at Hathor, you say, drop your weapon. They just look at you like you're freaking mental. Like, why would I do that, dude? I'm just gonna die and spawn with it again, thanks. Like, imagine that when you're trying to take live bounties and hand them in for more money and stuff like that. Like, it just doesn't work. Conceptually, it's broken. And as far as I'm aware, the respawning thing is still infinite range. Like, I think you can even spawn in a Nursa from Stanton to Pyro still. I've not checked that this patch, but that's been the case for a couple of patches now. They did say it was going to be range based, and Nursa would be really small and, bigger tier beds would have bigger and bigger ranges. I get the feeling the issue was something to do with server meshing, where they had to just make it all infinite or you would never make it back if you were like on a different server. I'm not sure. This is a hard show. Why did I sign myself up for this? Like, I don't even like having opinions. I'm enjoying this. I'm enjoying this as much as anybody else. It's been a good laugh. It really has. There's always that chance that that guy who killed you repeatedly 3 times in a row doesn't have a respawn bed. So you just need to get him that one time. And, it could be argued it's his fault for not bringing a bloody Nursa, sort of. So I'm not sure if I would describe it as not very fun, because it has been pretty fun. But losing the weight of death and not losing your gear has affected the game negatively, in my opinion. But now that I've experienced what that's like, when we go back, I'm not sure I would be happy going all the way back. I might, want something in the middle. I'm not sure what that is. Not Arma 3, but, not Fortnite. Anyway, I know it's a meme at this point, but is there really no positive feedback on Spectrum? Yeah, they're all negative. I just went through the whole page and every single one is negative. Crazy. Okay, you trudge onward. No incentive for me to do a Line in Mine or Stormbreaker. I would love to play both of these events, but I mostly solo play. I have all the alignment cards as I go to the paths and OLPs regularly for the parts. I have the laser activation card. I just don't have the desire to start the event as I know I'll get ganked and the time and effort it takes is rather large. There's no real way to form a group without telling the entire server, which will bring out the PvPers. Both of these events seem really cool, but they are just not open to me. I mean, look, I get what this guy's saying, but if you balance the game, if you balance this event for a solo player, then it would be useless for groups of people. So at some point, some things are going to have to be balanced differently. I don't know like how else to put that. That sounds quite harsh, unless CIG decides to put in a smaller sort of event and that spreads out the demand that are soloable, but you will get the rewards that you would require. That would seem only fair. And we should probably stop calling them events, by the way. But to take this great event, this cool multiplayer event, this group event, and break it down, make it easier and more accessible, just takes away from another group, just takes away from another player type, right? And they just started rolling out these things. They've been coming out pretty consistently. Give it a year or two and maybe everybody will be happy. Extra room in the bunker in 4.3. Played some bunkers on PTU today and noticed they seem to have a new room that previously wasn't there. Oh yeah, I recognise that. There used to be a lift, an elevator, right? Huh, medical symbol. That's interesting. There could be something in the works there. I don't feel like a citizen in Star Citizen. I don't feel like a citizen in SC anymore. I feel like a hero. That's bad. Okay. There's a massive disconnect between the lore of the game and the actual game itself. The believability of this game has been exponentially decreased. To do anything, I have to go become a Terminator and single-handedly clear 40 bunkers, haul more cargo than any company ever has, breach and assault a scientific research centre, and then buy a burrito. Okay, so I've read ahead, and this guy's whole point seems to be the elements that CIG are taking out of the stores and putting behind gameplay. It started out with taking armour out of stores and throwing it in loot boxes with an off chance to find the arms you wanted. Then it moved to weapon shops not selling good variety anymore. Then Pyro dropped and suddenly the part manufacturers decided, nah, we don't want to sell products anymore, we want to put them in a thunderstorm extraction shooter in a lawless system not even associated with the UAE. Then Wicklow came and yeah, you get the point. This is so stupid, unbelievably so. I know you guys are making a game and that's fair, but you're trying to have a cake and eat it too. You want a space sim that's believable, immersive, things happen for a reason. But also have an extraction shooter for ship parts because, and most people agree with this. See, I completely disagree. I'm okay with basic armour and guns all being available in stores, that's normal. I definitely don't want to be able to just go and buy really cool armour, or really cool guns, or, you know, the highest echelon of ship components. I think it's great that they've removed it all from the stores. I think it's great that the game that we've all been complaining about not having any bloody gameplay is getting gameplay. That could just be me. I'm obviously in the minority here. But yeah, I don't want to be able to just walk into a place and buy whatever I like. And I don't really want you to have that ability either. Which is a bit shit of me. I realise that. But it wouldn't be rare if it was really easy to obtain now, would it? Plus it would feel even better when I strip it off your cold dead corpse. I mean, I get it. From a lore perspective, it probably doesn't make much sense, but I feel they've mostly stuck to that. You get radiation suits at the radiation place, you get the re-engineered Wicklow stuff from the Wicklow guy, you get all the basic armours in the store. Like, there's probably lots of exceptions to that, but I'm going to gloss over that significantly and move on. I mean, if CIG can stick to the lore and narrative and make it make sense, then all the better. They probably do have a point on some level here. Regen crisis. So while walking through Orison, I heard an NPC say something about people coming back as monsters. This instantly sent my heart racing and thinking how cool it would be if we had an event where we got mutated or irradiated zombies to fight off for Halloween as part of the Regen crisis. Now, like straight off the bat, I can see how a lot of people are going to react. They'll like this game to be quite realistic, and zombies would probably go against that. Driftwood Badger says, sounds like the foreshadowing of stuff we're learning in 4.3. Huh. I've not been in the PTU, I've been avoiding it for spoilers. But we're going to take what Driftwood Badger says there and add it to this as evidence that this might be a thing. Fight irradiated zombies checks off another box on the Call of Duty list. Yeah, to be honest, if it's an event, not like the ones we've been mentioning, which aren't events. Those are, do we have a word for them? Missions? Permanent missions in the verse. They are. The Valakar and stuff, all permanent. If it's just a Halloween zombie killing event, I mean, the lore kind of checks out. If you're super cloning humans, you could definitely be genetically manipulating things in any direction. And radiation causing mutations in that process could also do the same thing. It checks out, it wouldn't be too hard. But this guy, Apparat42, can we have global Santa hunting events? One global marker, players can either defend the Santa convoy for rewards or try and shoot gift boxes off its cargo spines. What? Fuck yes. I want that and the zombies, to be honest. As long as they're just events. Not permanent gameplay, just events. Just fun. Just good old seasonal fun. It would also be interesting to see a whole new class of NPC as well. That just has the run it player command. Yeah, that could be a good laugh. Cringy, cheesy, but good old fashioned fun. Anyway, I think that's about enough of this. That's definitely enough ruminating for one day. Who wants to see something that will make them happy? This is what is locally known as a Zorge of Zeus's. Tune in next time for more of these abhorrent, undiluted opinions. And watch out for Forged in the Verse, the Ship Showdown edition, which will be full of stuff like this, which you love. Thanks for watching. Hopefully I'll see you again sometime. 07 guys.